Hi, it's Liz from Sew for Home with a mini tip that you can use for a more professional finish. Fussy cutting with a window template. Now, fussy cutting, if you're brand new, has nothing to do with whining and everything to do with isolating a motif within your fabric to perfectly position it on your project. And I'm going to show you how cool it is to use a frame from your pattern to make that super easy. So we're going to use the kitty ears pocket pattern from our Rosalie apron, and all I did, here's the full pattern, is I simply cut out the center of it along the seam allowance line, and that is what gives you your window, your frame, that is going to be the exact opening of the finished pocket. And then you can just use that window and move it around on your fabric until you get to the element in your motif that you want to center on the pocket. I want this little gal with her cool little orange hair and get her centered there. Now at this point you can just pin it in place and trace around the outside edge, the cut line, and just cut it out from there. If you feel like this is a little bit too thin and wiggly for you to work with, then instead trace on the inside line, the seam allowance line, and then you can remove the window, find your original paper pattern, and align its seam allowance with the line that you traced, pin that more stable piece in place, and then cut around your outside edge. So sometimes your pattern pieces may be quite a bit smaller. This is a flap pattern from one of our fabric wallets, and in that case it can be easier to actually just leave it within the full sheet that you've printed out. And again, all I did was cut out the center window along that seam allowance line, and then I can hold on to the whole sheet as I move it around. Of course, you can do that with any type of pattern piece if you feel that gives you a little more stability to move things around until you find your perfect piece. There's our little sleeping kitty. And again, you can pin it in place and actually use your scissors and just cut through everything here. Or as we did with the other one, you can trace along the inner seam allowance line, then find your original pattern piece and align that traced seam allowance with the printed seam allowance, pin it in place and cut along that line. Now, my favorite way to use this window template technique is with the dimensional pieces, but if you're just working with squares, there are a lot of quilters tools that you can use. Some of them have the window already open and you can move that around just like you can with the paper templates. There's also squares of all different sizes and they're transparent. So again, you can see and move those around on your fabric to get that perfect positioning. So that's another great way to work with it. So, fussy cutting with the window template. Give it a try for a pro finish. Thanks for listening and happy sewing.